I think my strongest quality is the ability to interact with very diverse groups. I think my upbringing allows me to really hone in on my people skills. I think over the years of just being able to, again, communicate with just the people who don't look like you, who don't talk like you, who don't come from different backgrounds, finding that common ground. And I think that's super important in recruiting, because you want recruiting, you want staffing to be super unbiased. You know what I'm saying? One thing I've learned through just research, very diverse teams, they're super successful. And diversity is more than just black and white, Hispanic. It is where did you grow up? Where did you go to college? What did you learn? What have you been through? And so all of those intangibles, for me, they make a good candidate. So if you look at my background, I've worked in the entertainment industry. I've worked at Wells Fargo. I worked at the bank. I worked in insurance. So all of these experiences have equipped me with just core skills. Again, the ability to manage projects at a high level, the ability to start up conversations with people that I've ran to meet at bars, walking down the street. It really doesn't matter. I'm looking for qualities, exceptional high character people, people that believe in themselves, believe in their talent. And so that's kind of what I look for. I won't say I always had an interest in recruiting. I had one of my good friends from high school was in it and did really well financially. But for me, it was when I got fired from the bank. I had no idea where my career was going to turn. I knew I was really talented, all my teams performed exceptionally well. But I was pivoting in my career. So I was making $12. And I remember the summer of 2013, 2014, 2015, somewhere around there. I would email, type in HR recruiter or recruiter at Wells Fargo, and I would email all these recruiters, and I got some responses. Finally, I ended up getting a job. I remember I was telling my first manager at Wells Fargo, hey, if you don't give me this job, don't call me no more. I don't have any more money to drive from South Charlotte to North Charlotte for these interviews. So I get the job. It was a call center job. I was making $12.37, pissed the hell off, because I had graduated college. I had worked with Russell Simmons, P. Diddy, and I had all this experience that you could see on paper, but I really didn't do a good job of explaining it. It wasn't written really good on my resume, but I still did well at Wells Fargo, ended up getting in a talent leadership development program for about a year and a half. Then I became a manager of a Wells Fargo home mortgage team. Clashed with my managers really bad. In December 22nd, 23rd, I got fired a couple of days before Christmas. Oh shit, what's next? My buddy was hey, go into recruiting. It's not a hard gig. So I get into recruiting, and I was oh shit, this isn't rocket science. They're not doing brain surgery. They're fundamentally just calling people and telling them to talk about themselves. So I really learned how to write resumes from that experience. I remember my first probably 6 months, I went 0 for 17, and that's meaning I had 17 candidates interview, none of them got the job. So I just really started looking at why they weren't getting hired. And that was just small stuff that was what we talk about now as imposter syndrome. It was their confidence. It was me teaching them to talk about yes, you have done this. You've managed projects, you've built stuff from the ground, but how do you talk about it in the context of work? And that's what led me to build my own company, just because I saw the bias, not only against just minorities and black people, just anybody. It was just finding a new job was extremely challenging. And so I started H3 and Black Resumes to help people navigate the complex job search process. I think relationships are super important. Relationships have gotten me to where I'm at today. If that was running for student body president, it was those relationships I was able to build. I think it gives you it brings out the human element in people. We're in a weird time, we're in a weird space of just human interaction, American interaction. But being a recruiter, I think it taught me to not only empathize and show grace to myself, but to other people. I was in that space before, looking for a job. So I think being a recruiter in the talent management space really showed me empathy, grace, and respect for just humans. I think it was the best job of my life. It really slowed me down. I used to have this super high expectations for people, but that kind of brought it back down, because you really got to find and coach people where they are, especially if they want to learn and want to get better. And I think it just really made me a better person. Okay, I think my worst experience that really just kind of shocked me to the core was I was in the office one morning, and I heard two other recruiters say the candidate is black. And for me, that was like, oh shit, I'm black. It was super alarming. And I just mentally multiplied it across the spectrum. Like, how many other recruiters are thinking like that? And I thought about, like, hell, I'm super talented and you're paying me $12.37. I thought about me getting fired. I thought about all these emotions. I think that was my worst experience, just knowing the bias in the ecosystem of recruiting, the bias in the ecosystem of talent management. I think the toughest part in the recruiting is just letting people know, one, that they're not qualified for this job. And everyone thinks they're super qualified, but really going back and like, hey, this is a job you fundamentally can't do. You have to have the skills, A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever the skills are required, you have to have those fundamental skills. Like, you wouldn't want your doctor to come straight from like an ice cream parlor because they don't have the skills to like do open heart surgery. I think that, and just really telling people they didn't get the job. Like, anytime someone goes through like 4 or 5 interviews, and you have to call them and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs., unfortunately they went with another candidate, and really break it down to them why. So I'm really big on like getting feedback for our candidates, for our ecosystem, so that I can go back and coach them on the next interview. But it still pisses people off when they don't get the job. I think for me, it's transparency. I think our organization, what I'm trying to build, what we're working on the last couple of years, is really surrounding people with other talented people, and really putting you in an incubator to develop those skills and to develop you past their imposter syndrome. And so we keep, I kind of bucket, I have our mid-professional bucket, and then we have our entry-level bucket, or talent that just wants to get into tech or a new job. And we spend a lot of time with them in terms of just skills development. And so I may tell them, hey, this opportunity just isn't for you today. But let's just work on these skills. For example, I had a candidate interview for a DevOps position, super talented, but he didn't have a certain niche skill set. So what I did was I just Googled, like, here go worksheets, here go free programs that you can do. Like, let's really work at it. One thing I've really learned, my experience in the music industry, was like Russell or Diddy, one of them said, like, if we're on a treadmill, I'm going to outrun you. I may not be the fastest, the biggest, the strongest, but I know you're going to quit. And so for us, it's really just outlasting people. You don't have to be, I'm not the biggest person in the world. I'm not the smartest person, but I'm very strategic. I'm very people oriented. And so I really just strategize of how we want to get you to the next level. I think one of the things I've learned is people don't really understand their skills. And so we do a lot around skills development, skills identification. And that helps us build curriculums. That helps us build an actual plan to get you from point A to point B. If, like, my philosophy, if you buy in, like, I promise you, you'll get interviews. I can't promise you're going to get the job because I can't go interview for you. But if you buy into our system, into our program, you'll get the interviews, the practice that you need so that you can accelerate your career. Oh, man, I think there's a lot of proud moments. This is the day that we launched H3, on the day that we won the 5K grant, the day that we were announced as an NC Idea winner, one of the NC Idea 10K winners. But I think all of those moments are super proud because those are individual moments. But I think the thing that make me go at this every single day, the thing that doesn't allow me to quit, is when people call me and say, I got a job, or hey, Quentin, I got an interview, or you're great at what you do, or the time where I was at a company, local staffing firm here, and we had 17 starts, like 1 start per week for 17 weeks. Like, that's super exciting because you're fundamentally watching people's life change. Charlotte is really known as the economic city in terms of, if you're born in poverty here, if you're born poor here, the chances of you growing to economic prosperity are very slim. Watching people go from maybe a server or a cashier to an entry-level BA job, and you're fundamentally watching their lives change. There's nothing more exciting, there's nothing more engaging than watching people change their lives. And I think that's what I enjoy the most. The individual achievements are cool and great, but to be super honest, I can care less about my individual achievements. It's the community that we're building and the lives that we're changing. Oh, wow, really good. How does it affect me? I think, so I have rheumatoid arthritis, so I have to keep my psyche up really high. It's just the positivity, it's the engagement, it's the happiness, the joy. I think I'm at a point in my career, my life, and building my business where before I wouldn't have really I wouldn't have honored these accomplishments, I kind of would have just swept them under the rug like it's just another notch on my belt. But for me now personally, it just feels good. And I actually like feel the accomplishments. I feel the achievements, and I like what it does to my body. I like what it does to my psyche. I like what it does to the people around me. I think it just rubs off on people when people see the energy that you have, the commitment, the passion, the joy that it brings you. It rubs off on people, and I think that's what it's all about, is like, how do you inspire people to dream bigger, to chase their goals? And that's what it does for me. It allows me to like just keep going. I'm a really big spiritual believer that God will do anything crazy as long as you believe and be faithful and obedient, regardless of how that looks for you. And for me, that's what it does. It just makes me happy as hell. That's like super excited. I think that's fundamentally one of the questions. I think I was recently asked, would I sell my company? And my answer was hell no. And I think that's why I didn't win. I think we're a $500 million company. We want to build our platform to be one of the biggest platforms for talent management there is. I think the word that we want to use is just the word that we want to use, or the word that I'm thinking about our company, is just growth and innovation. And that's where I see our company is continuing to grow and be innovative. And that's innovative in how we find talent, how we develop that talent, how do we cultivate that talent, how do we deploy that talent. And again, I want to be a $500 million company, and that's when we begin the conversation if I want to sell it or not. But we're just excited about the opportunities, really taking those opportunities in, processing them, and seeing if they make sense for our business. I think a lot of time as an entrepreneur, you just want to grow. I've developed this sense of peace of staying in the place of just learning. And listening to our customers. So over the next couple of years, we just want to listen to our customers, our stakeholders, and figure out what they truly want to make decisions for the company. And there's tons of shitload of advice. I've done a lot of cussing in this interview, I'm sorry, but there's a lot of advice. I think one is just fundamentally believe in yourself. I think that's the number one rule of being an entrepreneur. That's one of the number rule of being successful, is self-belief. Nobody believes in your gifts and talents more than you do. And I tell this story. I remember I graduated from college. I moved home for a little bit, and I was chasing my music dream. And my uncle was like, I think you should give up on this. And I looked at him like, man, you crazy as hell. 2 years later, I was nominated for a Grammy. For me, it's the self-belief of yourself. And I think the second piece of entrepreneurs is develop people that you can trust, that add to the vision, but also that you can add to them. I think over the last couple of years, my first kind of few years in entrepreneurship or leading companies and teams, like I was doing a lot of the lifting, I was doing a lot of the carrying and saying the word we. And it wasn't really a we, it was an I. But over the last few years, I've transitioned and really found really strong people that I can trust. I think for you, Brent, like I've watched you blossom in your own career, but in turn, you've helped me in my career. That could be Deanna Steed over at Avid Exchange, who really saw the idea and the vision of our company and said, hey, I'm going to give you access to Avid Exchange as much as you want and what you have. It was Ebony, who I called on the phone and said, Aggie Pride. Oh, and I didn't go to A&T, I went to Winston-Salem State. It's just finding people that have those characteristics and those traits, those fundamental traits that you always can't see, and loyalty. Just finding people that are loyal to the gift, their own individual gifts, that don't mind going in the direction that you're going in. I think early, I call it the T-bone model, where it's you have an idea and I have an idea, and they're both great ideas, but we were running like this and we're just T-boning each other, and that's not effective. But what I've done is really found people that are going like, you have an idea and you're going north and south, I got an idea and I'm going north and south. Let's run together and let's cross when we need to, and just pitch opportunities to each other. And once you feel that space of genuineness, of connection, and loyalty and just that go-get-it attitude that I won't lose, those are the people you want to be around. So I think just building a strong team. And the last thing, third thing, I think just be fearless. Again, we're living in a crazy-ass world. Be fearless. Protect yourself, but be fearless. Make calculated risks. I think all my risks are super calculated. I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, we think one step at a time. But if you're a CEO, if you're a leader, you got to kind of think the 3 steps ahead and the impact of those steps. So a lot of times, like, it's not just one individual move I make, and I understand if I connect with you, what is the kind of roll-off effect of that? And really making sure the relationships are solid. And don't do, like, all money isn't good money. I had to learn just to walk away from deals that I like probably would have changed my life, but it would have changed my soul in the process. You know what I'm saying? I felt like my soul was a lot more important to my wins, and so that's really what it's about.